What is going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by comic creator Scott Wilke. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
What's up, guy? What's up, man? I'm glad to be
I'm
back. It's been a
man.
while.
It has. We were just talking off camera backstage. Like it's been 3 years because it was when you had Periwinkle. Your Kickstarter came out
Yeah,
that started this whole saga that we're gonna dig
it's
into.
and it
Um,
won't stop. It just keeps
so
going. Yeah.
right. I but I'm glad that we can dig back into this universe, this world you're creating right now. At the time that we're having this interview, you have a new book, Frost in the Periwinkle Saga universe, and
Yep.
you have it's live on Kickstarter. So if you're listening today to our conversation and you go, "Ooh, this sounds like something I want to check out," we'll have links to the Kickstarter in the description of this video, or if you're listening to audio and podcasts and stuff like that.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but before we hop too much into your book, since it's been a while, like let's just kind of rehash for people that are new to you, Scott. Have you always
Yeah.
loved comics, or is this kind of something that came later in life for you?
No, yeah, ever since I was a kid, my mom used to pick me up Superman comics from the grocery store. So that was my first intro into the comic books, and now I have an undying love for the Man of Steel. But since then, yeah, I've always read them. It didn't dawn on me, honestly, though, to start writing them, probably until, after I was married. We went to Comic-Con, and, I've always wanted to be a writer. I went to film school, um, you know, made my attempts at writing screenplays and all that. Didn't ever get anywhere. And just walking through Artist Alley, talking to all these authors, it dawned on me like, well, I love that medium. I'm a
Mhm.
writer, so let's give it a shot. I figured since I'm not an artist, like I can't enter that world, but once I started realizing a lot of these authors are just, working with different artists, I'm upset it took me that long for it to click.
Yeah, yeah. So what about the medium of comics drew you to like you said you were dabbling in screenplays and stuff like that. What
Yeah.
about the like I want to write for comics kind of drew you into this medium?
I just love the visual medium, right? So
Yeah.
like film, I'm a huge film geek. Um, and so just the ability with comics to kind of stay on static shots or stay
Yeah.
within a scene and absorb it. Because, in movies, you're just like boom, 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 boom. You don't really get to savor it unless you watch them, like with me, The Mummy, a million times in your lifetime. You don't catch everything. So like comics just lets you kind of immerse yourself more in the world beyond what like pros can do, kind of because you're relying on imagination, obviously.
Right.
So it's cool to see like an artist's interpretation of the world, being able to just sit in it, take it in, absorb it. I just love it.
Yeah. What I love too is like you can look at a panel and you can spend as much time like you said as you want with the page.
Yep,
Like you don't have a director telling you, all right, you got to move along to the next scene. Like you can just if
exactly.
something catches your eye, you can just stare and look at it, like and you got man, the artwork on your books that and the Periwinkle stuff has been so good. So like I catch
Yeah.
myself just staring at it sometimes going, oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
Right, exactly. And Arturo, my artist that I work with, he's so good at putting like little Easter eggs in or little hidden details. Like I'm still catching things on Periwinkle, and it's been like you said, like since 2021, I've had that book. So, yeah, again, I love the medium for that
Yeah.
reason for sure.
Yeah. So you said you kind of were walking through Comic-Con and got inspired to start to write. As someone's like hearing this, what was that process like for you? Like, trying to figure out the medium and the world of comic books, putting together a team with Arturo and, working with Bad Bug and stuff. Like, how did you kind of like, all right, let's just do this?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, like I said, I did have a background in screenplays, and so I did a lot of storyboarding, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that I already kind of had an idea of how to map out visually a story, and so essentially, a lot of my storyboards were just, poorly drawn on my part, comic books. So I already had the kind of the flow, and you learn that from screenwriting and just writing in general. So that part was easy. It was really the hard part was finding artists,
Mhm.
right? Because my first comic, The Legend of Everett Forge, I went to like ArtStation and stuff, looking around, spent a long time. I was able to hook up with like Click Art Studios at that time for that piece. Um, that series never ended up being finished, but I moved on to other things with Bad Bug and Mike Teener.
Mhm.
And then through that we worked on like Undercity Tales and stuff like that. And so Mike always handled the legwork of finding artists. But so again, when I had Periwinkle there, I was again trying to find an artist. I had one artist, he bailed on the project about 5 pages in. I think 80 pages was just too much. And then Mike, thankfully, again, he found Arturo on Instagram. And, it's been a love affair since then because we've just been pumping out stories since 2021.
Yeah. So, well, we mentioned Periwinkle a lot, and like we said, we're in the midst of your Kickstarter of Frost. If people are new to you and this universe, what is Periwinkle, and kind of where did that idea come about?
Yeah, Periwinkle's a story about an elf. It's Santa's been murdered by Krampus, and so he's the kind of the last elf in the North Pole, and he's seeking revenge, Kill Bill style. So he just starts marking off anyone that was involved in the murder, all the elves that kind of helped with the coup. He's just knocking them off his naughty list one at a time. Um, so that was that. I love Christmas, like I mentioned last time, what I also like doing is deconstructing mythology and folklore. I like turning it on its head, looking into the darker aspects of it, especially just corrupting childhood nostalgia is like my bread and butter. So that was kind of the basis of Periwinkle, and I loved the universe so much when I was in there that I was like, I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what can I do? And I was on a podcast, and somebody asked uh, you know, what's happening to the outside world? Because we don't really see that in Periwinkle, right? So I was like, that's a really cool concept I would love to explore. So I'm like, what can my vehicles be to explore what's happening outside that world? So I'm like, well, why don't I just go to more mythological characters, Cupid, Frost, and the whole gamut, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole Periwinkle saga origins, so to speak.
Yeah. So when you started out with Periwinkle, you didn't have an idea of continuing in this universe or at the time, or did that come later?
I wanted to explore it, but more just along the lines of like Periwinkle and Santa, Krampus,
Mm,
and Belsnickel lore.
yeah.
So that was what going to be my focus. But again, once I saw like opportunities to explore elsewhere, that's when Cupid and everything came about. But I always wanted to kind of stay within the Christmas realm, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I'm glad I kind of broke away from that a bit. So
Yeah, and we're talking, Periwinkle right now. You have the Kickstarter of Frost that's going. In between that, you had Cupid, which you said you kind of started to break out of, looking at what's going on in the outside world. You still like there's notes of like, the saint is dead and things like that throughout the
yeah,
stories. So you're tying in why use like, and what I love is you're using like more obscure of the mythological stories, right? Like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
using a Cupid, you're using a Frost, a boogeyman, an elf, Krampus, Belschnickel, like like why were you like, I want to focus in on like these lesser known and not like the Easter Bunny, the big dogs,
I know, right? Yeah, I definitely considered it, right?
Yeah,
But I think there's so much more to a lot of these characters that I think people think, and once you start digging into like the lore behind all these characters and the folklore behind it, it's so much richer, and it's really a disservice that they're not considered the big dogs, right?
yeah.
That they don't have more of kind of an existence in medias. So that's kind of why, and like that's there's a bunch of different like tellings of like Saint Nick, right? And that's why I didn't want to do like another like hero version like Klaus or something like
Yeah.
that. So that's why I went to like I'm like who's another player in the Christmas universe, and it's elves. So I just kind of like maybe subverting expectations a bit or going for the lesser knowns. And two, I looked at like who would be most impacted by the death of Santa, right? I mean, Christmas is over. There's a lack of love, no love actually anymore, So it's like, who would be impacted by that? Cupid for sure, right? I mean, he's in the love industry. So he was a very organic and logical first choice for me. And then Frost became the second logical choice due to just the inner workings of the mythological world and the different, orders of like the winter solstice and stuff like that. So that's kind of what led me to where I am.
So now we're here at Frost. Kickstarter's live right now as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
What can people expect from this, entry into the Periwinkle saga?
A lot of violence. No, I just with Frost it was again like just that more people haven't done it. I mean, Jack Frost is an assassin is like the coolest thing to me. I mean, he makes his weapons out of thin air. His ice bullets evaporate, no shell casings. I mean, he just leaves no evidence trail. It's just so I was like, that's too good to like pass up. And then his dad is Old Man Winter, and he's this cold-hearted mob boss in New York City, and um, so again, there's this kind of power vacuum, right? That Santa Claus is gone, and there's this something called the Order of the Winter Solstice, which is this kind of almost like governing board, right, of the seasons. And everyone's kind of vying for Santa's spot in that realm. So Old Man Winter's trying to get it. There's a bunch of other Christmas and snow deities that want it. Old Man Winter turns this Jack to kind of clear some of the competitors out.
Yeah.
So just a lot of, if you love John Wick, if you love Tarantino films, if you're big into like hyper gore and violence, like you're gonna find something in this book for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting that you mentioned like how like he can create his weapons right out of thin air by
Yeah,
like ice. I've always thought I'm like, why don't people kill more with icicles? Like the evidence
right.
dissolves. I don't know. Maybe there I have
Yeah,
maybe there is something in CSI
there's
that like they
the
still can
icicle
figure it
killer.
out, but
Yeah, the icicle killer.
right? So stepping into this universe, you deal with a lot of relationships, right? Like you have the father son dynamic here of, trying to step outside of your father's shadow and what that means. And,
Yeah,
but then with still power in there. And, in Cupid, you had a lot of dealing with loss and trying to figure out, who your people are. And same with Periwinkle. Like, what is it about character and their, involvement with relationships with the other people that really drive your stories, I think, like, as a central part of it?
I'm glad you pointed that out because yeah, I mean that character exploration is probably my favorite part of writing.
Mm.
So it was really enjoyable to see, like Cupid. I mean, like again, going back to deconstructing mythology and folklore, like what would Cupid look like in the real world? I mean, as the god of love, like the insanity and the lunacy of love, and particular in his case, infatuation, right, with
Yeah.
Irita. How does that manifest, and like what does that do to a person? So it was really cool to explore those concepts because I think we've all had like heartbreak, right? We've all had, um, you know, crushes and stuff, and like how kind of crazy and stupid we've acted. So it was cool to kind of explore that with a vehicle as silly as Cupid. And then again, just it's a like I said, with love, that's a huge concept. And then a parent-child dynamic is another big part. I mean, we're all kind of sculpted by our parents, and that age-old question, like, can we be more than what they made us? Like, are we destined to be like them? Those types of things. So it was really enjoyable to explore these large, expansive concepts in a silly kind of environment and still, um, you know, have fun with it and make it, easier to digest, so to
Yeah.
speak, you know?
Yeah. I I gotta ask, what is Arturo's reaction sometimes when you send in these scripts of like, all right, I want the icicle here to shoot out like this, and then does he like just go, whatever, like let's go for it, or like does he go,
Honestly, Arturo is the coolest guy like I've ever met. I wish I could meet him in person, but he lives off in Spain, so maybe one day I'll head out that way.
yeah.
But yeah, a funny story about Arturo that I like to tell is like when we talked, he told me the first time we talked, he told me that he learned all his English from Tarantino films.
Oh wow.
So I think that explains a lot. And like honest to God, like that guy a lot of that stuff he drives. So like I kind of lay out the scene, panel work. I'm like, I would like an icicle through the neck here. And then he just sets the rest up there. And he's never fought me on anything. And in fact, he's probably enhanced some of my violence to to Tarantino degree, which I have no qualms about because it's like he's just such a he's a master at his craft for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And what I love to see that, that kind of influences coming like, and what I love too is you have consistency in your, this feels like the world is I'm still in the Periwinkle world, even though I'm in a different
Nice.
element by keeping, the art style the same. And it's so gorgeous. Like it does it
Yeah.
just it makes it all tie together so well.
Appreciate
So
that, man.
man, lock down Arturo. No one else uses Arturo.
I know. I want to marry him. I wonder if my wife's okay with that.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, yeah.
So we've talked about Frost right now. Kickstarter's live, kind of John Wick-esque vibes, right? Assassin. What can, if people are new to this world, like, are there opportunities for them via the Kickstarter to kind of explore previous stuff? This when, and if they don't want to, it feels like Frost also is a standalone that you don't need the others, but it helps.
Bingo. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities here. There's something called the catch up on the entire saga series or tier that I have on the Kickstarter. Great deal because you get Periwinkle, Cupid, and then you get a Frost cover A for free on that tier. So you get caught up immediate there. And again, too, like you don't need to if you don't want to. And that was like a big push for me with this series was I wanted to make something where you don't have to read them all to enjoy it. You can read one, you can read two, you can read all three, and there's going to be something there for everybody. Um, so that was like it's a balance I keep trying to strike, and eventually there will be some like, crossover between the two worlds. So it would probably help later in when I'm further along that you read the series, so you kind of understand why they're crossing paths. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But as it stands, and certainly for the next series that I'm going to be working on in this universe, you can certainly just read them alone and just enjoy them.
But gang, if the catch up tier's there, you might as well, if it's gonna
Might as well,
eventually lead to
man.
something, like just
And it will for sure. Yeah,
just do it, gang.
exactly.
What
Appreciate that.
what else are there, like other things that you like, is this your, I know you've done three Kickstarters with this. Have you only done Kickstarters with this series, or have you done Kickstarters with other books as well?
I mostly through Bad Bug because I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm lead writer with Bad Bug Media, so lots of stuff through them. Welcome to Monster World, Serial Killer are two are big ones over there, and then we've got some of the other not safe for work titles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got a lot to going on with that. But yeah, this is the main ones that I've been running on my camp or my account, and then I just did also Undercity Tales 2 last year as well. So yeah, we're always cooking on something. It seems like Bad Bug has a Kickstarter probably twice or three times a month these
Yeah.
days. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they're cooking for sure.
yeah.
Have you learned, stuff about running the Kickstarter with Periwinkle that now has inspired you to kind of do stuff of Frost? And if someone's listening, like a new creator, like what is it, like something that you've learned through your Kickstarter process of like this is what
Yeah,
I'm doing for this one?
for sure. I learned a lot of lessons through Periwinkle. First off, I will never launch a Kickstarter unless I have most of the book done.
Mm.
Because Periwinkle we launched and probably 10 pages or so of an 80-page book were done at the launch. And I had people waiting like over a year, unfortunately, just because that's how long art takes, right? But that's a long time to ask somebody to wait for something that they paid for. So I was super apologetic, sent them a bunch of extras because I felt horrible about it. So now my goal is always, Frost is done. It's sitting here, ready to hit the printer. So that's the main thing I've learned, and that's what I would advise a lot of
Yeah.
new creators is to make sure most, if not all, of your art's done before you launch a Kickstarter because you can get in some sticky situations, and I've been in sticky situations previously too, where you lose the artist, and now you got a half finished book, and you got to scramble to either have somebody finish the other half or do the entire book over. So, yeah, that's my biggest takeaway, and just yeah, try not to overpromise too much because
Yeah.
again, people don't like that. They did this is hard-earned money that they're
Mhm.
spending on you, and so
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because as when I do these interviews, I have an audience that, they hear a book and they're like, "Ooh, I want to go to my shop and get it right away." And so sometimes I found it hard, doing Kickstarter interviews when I first started coming out, because like you said, you hype up a book, they get it, and then they wait a year. And so it's like
yeah, exactly.
I think people get excited about something, they like it. So like, when we were having conversations about coming on and you're like, "Oh yeah, Frost is done." I'm like, "Oh man, that's fantastic." Right? Like, because it's a
Yeah,
quicker turnaround. People are a
for
lot less
sure.
patient, a lot more patient if they're like, "Okay, it's done, we'll get it sooner,"
Yeah,
whatever. And so I think those are smart things and very helpful tips to someone who's, if someone's looking at creating something for sure.
yeah, totally.
Because I have been burned on Kickstarter. So I appreciate when you have people who understand the process and go, okay, but I think it also is you're a fan, right? Like so you
Exactly.
yourself have you've learned you support Kickstarter, so you know like what you
Mhm.
want as a fan, and then you probably infiltrate that into your strategy as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is because, like, I've had books where I backed it and it shows up in my door 2 years later and I'm like, I totally forgot about it, you know? And I think that's what happened with Periwinkle. I think people backed it and a lot of them forgot. It came out a year later. So a lot of the hype was gone. Um, and it was bad news. But again, we were fresh. I mean, Bad Bug
Yeah.
was just getting off the ground at that time. So, Mike and I have learned a ton of lessons through all of our missteps, and I think we're a well-oiled machine at this point. Anything bad bug you're backing, you're gonna get
Yeah.
pretty darn soon after backing it. So
And if you're a fan of this show, we've had Alan and Will of
yep,
Grandma Chainsaw with Bad Bug, and so we've definitely been hyping up some Bad Bug books for sure. So,
appreciate
uh,
that, man.
how did you get connected with Bad Bug?
Yeah, I met Mike and man, what was it like 2017 or something like that? It might have even been longer, but we met through. I fell in love with his original series Dragonfly. So I reached out to him. We became Facebook friends, and we just stayed connected. And he helped me kind of guide my Kickstarters with like my earlier series. And then one day he was just like, "Hey, does anyone want to collaborate on a book?" And I raised my hand. And then so yeah, we worked on Undercity Tales together, and we just had such a blast. Like creative riffing off each other, or creative jam sessions. And so we were just like, hey, we need to like keep doing this, right? And then he came up with Bad Bug, and he's like, you want to help, and I was like, please, So I've just been riding his coattails since then. But yeah, it's been a really great, he's like a brother to me, honestly. We work really super close together and really well together. We both have similar mindsets, and we both enjoy similar like movies and TV shows and stuff. So like we just get each other,
Yeah.
right? So it's been a really great partnership, and I think we've had some really great success because of that.
Yeah. I'm I'm just looking at the Kickstarter right now, and really looking at those pages. They're so good. Uh,
Yeah.
what do you like? Where do you figure out like what you want in a Kickstarter, right? Like you've got pins and or not pins, but pogs and stickers and like where is it where you're like, this is what I want to do? Because I feel like you did some crazy stuff for Periwinkle as well.
Dude, man, the Pogs have been a battle, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna win or I'm gonna die trying to get Pogs back. So I've been arguing with the guys for some time to like, we need Pogs, right? It's got to come back. So we found a cool guy that does custom Pogs, and so we started on Serial Killer, and now this is going to be our second series of Pogs. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a nostalgia nerd, dude. So
Right.
like any chance I can get to bring back something that we loved is, I want to do those viewfinders again, but like they're a little
Ooh,
more costly. But I
yeah.
was like, how cool would that be to have like all our covers on like one of the discs?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but I'm
Just
trying
make
to
the
figure
disc.
out,
Like if you should be cool enough to have a viewfinder.
dude,
So
that's true. You got a
if
good,
you don't have a
that's true.
viewfinder, you don't deserve the fun of getting to explore
Yeah,
experience that again.
that's a good idea, man. We'll just do the disc. Yeah, because I'm sure I got my viewfinder somewhere.
And how many
If
how
I
many kids would also just hold it up to the light? Like I can see it kind of because you
totally
could
do.
because you couldn't find your viewfinder.
Exactly. But yeah, I just love that stuff. And then yeah, the stickers, like I work with Conrad Kerpluck. He does a lot of those like the skull stickers and the simple stickers. That's his series. So yeah, just I love the weird and the goofy and the nostalgic.
Oh, for sure. And it's so good. I've been helping my mom move and I found my old Pog collection. And
Heck
it's
yeah,
it's in
dude.
the binder. I
Is
still have the
it?
Pog sleeves.
Dude, I'm so sad that I somewhere in my travels in the last 30 years or whatever lost them. And yeah, because I don't know if you remember like the Apollo, you got them like from Hardee's or whatever, the
Mhm.
tube.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to have them in that, and I lost that. I'm just, I don't want to
I
think about it.
I I had a slammer. It was a metal slammer that looked like razor blade pointers around the whole
Oh
side. It
yeah,
was so cool. I have to
dude,
find that. That was not in the binder, so I have to find that, or I'm gonna be really sad.
I love it. I love
Um,
it.
I could talk nostalgia forever for you with you.
Right.
I know we're talking Frost. If someone's new to you, what's something else, maybe outside the Periwinkle saga that you would recommend them checking out and exploring?
For sure. Yeah, we got a couple series that Serial Killer, that's my the other one I'm working on with Bad Bug, and it's like Roger Rabbit, but serial characters. So there's somebody that's murdering all these serial characters. They're like Tony the Tiger types, and this detective, Brendan Runch or B Runch, is trying to find who the killer is. So that one's a hoot because we work with Kit Wallace on that one.
Okay.
So if you've seen like any of his work, he's another genius that I'm beyond privileged to be able to work with. And then Monster World or Welcome to Monster World is our Jurassic Park, but with cryptids. So the Yeti, the Bat Squatch, all those characters. We're having a blast with that one. Issue one's done. Issue two is just about to hit Kickstarter, probably in March. So I would keep an eye out for that one if you're interested. And yeah, just again, that nostalgia of cereal and Jurassic Park. We love it and we eat
Yeah.
it up.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and because I've missed the boat. So this was more of my audience doesn't. I want to know what I missed out. And I'm like, all right, I'll make that happen for sure.
Heck yeah, awesome.
You kind of hinted at it. We're expecting more eventually in the Periwinkle saga. Is that something that I know we can't talk about where you're going, but I'm assuming like this is
Mhm.
a world you want to stay in.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, because I guess I can let it go. It's going to be a buddy cop drama, and it involves characters you probably wouldn't expect. It involves the New Year's baby and Easter Bunny's daughter. So
Okay.
that's the next one that I'm working on. So Arturo's already like kicking on it. He's started some pages, concept art's done. I'll be sharing that on the Kickstarter, probably about the time that this interview hits.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be perfect timing for that.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's a fun one. It's again very silly backdrop, but like the concepts within it are very like heavy, and I just you know I think Arturo's probably had his most fun like kind of concept in this one out. So I really look forward to seeing what he creates with this one.
Yeah. Well, I know when Periwinkle dropped, you showed up in a elf hat. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I can have you on when New Year's baby comes. I don't know
Just
what
the
you'll show up
sash,
in.
brother. So yeah, right, exactly. Just the sash, brother.
Oh man. Well, Scott, where can people follow along with you, stay up to date if they're like they hear this and they see this, they want to know when some of these projects are dropping. What's the best way for
Yeah.
them to stay up to date with you?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok, so it's Awkward Skull at TikTok. If you want me on Instagram, it's Scott Wilke 24. Otherwise, I post a lot on Facebook. That's pretty much it. I'm off X. I'm not on that Threads, so that's Scott Wilke on Threads as well. So
Mhm.
I'm always around, and yeah, if you go to badbugmedia.com, you can find all our titles there, and yeah, I'm usually somewhere, just lurking.
I love it. Well, Scott, thank you so much just for taking some time to talk about comics
Yeah, dude.
with me. Gang, go support Frost right now. It's live. The Kickstarter is live. The link will be in the description of this video. If you're listening wherever you get your podcast, click that link as well in that description. Go support Frost. Catch up if you missed out on Periwinkle. Shame on you for not backing it after I interviewed Scott last time. So no, uh, go get Cupid, get the catch up bundle. It's a great deal. But just check out this world. I think this is something that people will really enjoy if you have not gone to. And I mean, listen to what we talked about. Like Jack Frost is an assassin gang. Come on, a Kill Bill elf style. Like, let's go. Like,
Right. Thanks, man.
so, Scott, thank you again for just
No,
taking some
thank
time out
you.
of your busy schedule to talk comics with me.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. And with that being said, gang, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.